Hi, 7th graders. We're finally starting to get into some real content for the school year. So this is our Characteristics of Life assignment. Yesterday we kind of started to talk in the Mars Soil Lab about what might figure out what would constitute a living thing or a non-living thing. So this is what we're really going to get in today. And by the end of today, you're really going to be able to kind of knock out, hey, this organism is living and this is why, this one's not and this is why. So your learning targets for today, I can characterize an object as living or non-living based on the 7 characteristics or criteria of life. Okay? All right, so on slide 2, the first thing you guys are going to do is play this little Kahoot game. It's called Living, Non-Living, or Was Once Living. So I'm going to show you guys a picture that's going to represent something like a rock. Okay, that's going to be one of your first ones you do. It's going to represent all rocks in the world. Okay, and you guys would mark as either living, okay, non-living, or was once living and is now dead. Okay, so maybe it was living at one time, but then it failed to meet one of those criteria, and now it's considered dead. Okay, so you guys will go through, you'll play that Kahoot, so go ahead. And again, if you guys are doing this at home and not in class, you guys use your first name and last initial as your nickname so I know that you did it. Okay, it's a kind of a fun game, and you guys will find that there's some things in there that are going to kind of blow your mind. We're going to talk about those here in a second. Okay, so again, pause this video, take a second, play the Kahoot. It'll go pretty quick. I think there's like 19 questions, and they're all like just a picture that represents all things on Earth, like rocks or whatever, and then, or bears, or whatever the case. And then when you're done, hit play on this video, and we'll come back and finish up the lesson. Okay? Welcome back. I hope you guys had fun playing the Kahoot. I hope you did well, and I hope you guys had your mind blown at some point. Next thing you guys are going to do is set up your OneNote for the year. So you are going to make one notebook in your OneNote this year. You're going to title it 7th grade Life Science, and that's going to be the only OneNote notebook that you create this year for my class. Okay, so I want you guys to take a minute, pause this video. I want you to open this link, so right-click it, open the link, and I want you guys to watch this video on how to set up your OneNote. Okay, so you'll follow along as you do that. And when you guys are done, you guys will have your notebook all set up, and you guys can go ahead and add this little set of notes into your 7 characteristics of life page of your OneNote that you will set up here in a second. So go ahead, again, pause this video, get your notebook set up using that video, add these notes, and then when you're done, hit play and we'll talk about them. All right, so you guys should have everything set up in your notebook. It should be very beautiful. If I go up and show you kind of what mine looks like, I think my computer's being slow, so maybe if you guys are curious what it looks like, come talk to me. So at any rate, there are 7 criteria of life right here that you guys just added to your OneNote. And some of you guys may have got some of these correct when you guys were wrapping up that last side of the Mars Soil Lab. Okay, first thing is consumes for energy and metabolism. Maybe you guys put something about food, water, oxygen. Not everything needs oxygen. Not everything needs food in the specific way that you guys are thinking. The whole point is that it has some way to make energy for itself. So whether it's eating food, making its own food, whether it's breathing oxygen or breathing in carbon dioxide, like plants, for instance, don't need oxygen, right? They need carbon dioxide. Okay, so think of that, all of that, the whole purpose is to make energy and to use metabolism for energy. And our second unit that we do this year of Amplify is going to be metabolism. So how does a body make energy? Okay, can grow and develop. Okay, in that Kahoot you guys played, one of the examples was an apple tree and then an apple. The second you guys pull that apple off the tree, it no longer has the ability to grow and develop. It's not getting what it needs to continue. It's not getting what it needs to continue growing and developing. So that's why that apple would no longer be considered living. Can reproduce. It needs other species to be able to reproduce to keep the species going. Okay, is made up of at least one cell. So bacteria are just one cell. We have bigger cells like protists, amoebas, stuff like that, that are, again, just one cell, but they're a big cell. And then you got things like humans that are made of millions and millions of cells, okay? Has genetic material, that would be like DNA, but DNA is not our only type of genetic material. A lot of bacteria and viruses have RNA or different types of DNA or different types of RNA. So there's actually a couple different types of genetic material, but they need some kind of code or recipe to help them kind of function and put their body together. Okay, this one's one of my favorite, respond to external and internal stimuli. So if you guys go outside on a hot day, you start to sweat. Okay, we have to maintain a certain body temperature, otherwise things in our body aren't going to work right. So when we sweat, the whole purpose is to cool down our body. We can only cool it down with sweat to a certain extent, so we could still get heat stroke and have some major problems if we get too hot. If we get too cold, we could still die of hypothermia, but when we get cold, we start to shiver because every time we use our muscles generate heat for our body. So the whole purpose is to kind of try to raise our body temperature when we're too cold. But again, that only works for so long, okay, before we kind of run out of energy and get tired and could potentially die of hypothermia. We also have things inside our body like or external stimuli like touching a hot stove. We've learned to pull our hand away when we feel pain. Okay, someone with diabetes, they have a way of, most humans have a way of regulating the amount of sugar in their blood because it's not great to have a lot of sugar in your blood. Whereas someone with diabetes, their pancreas doesn't produce insulin, which is what kind of pulls sugar out of our blood, or glucagon, which kind of adds sugar to our blood when we need sugar in other places of our body. So someone with diabetes doesn't have the right way to maintain that, so they have to do it externally with medication. Okay, so we have a ton of different ways that we maintain our body temperature, levels of different chemicals in our body, stuff like that, by responding to our environment or in our internal environment, which is called homeostasis. Okay, and then finally, because we have DNA and DNA is constantly changing and our environment is constantly changing as a species, that species as a whole can adapt and evolve. Remember when we're talking about these, we're talking about a whole species, not just one animal. Like we know, for instance, some people don't have the ability to reproduce, but as a species, humans do. Okay, so as we kind of look at all the humans in the world or all the rocks in the world or whatever, what is met? Okay, the big one here that we probably shocked you guys was viruses. So viruses technically are not considered living because they cannot reproduce on their own. They have to have a host cell. So that host cell might be a cell in your body, like in your lungs. It could be a different bacteria, but what they do is inject their DNA into a host cell, and then they use the mechanisms of the host cell to reproduce. So they will make a bunch more viruses in that host cell, and then that host cell will burst and release all the other viruses, which can go and infect other cells as well. So that's why we don't necessarily consider viruses a living organism, is because of that. And scientists are starting to discover some viruses that are actually capable of reproducing on their own, but that is, again, is a really small section of them. Okay, so that should be in your notes. There's nothing you guys have to do on this, so you guys can just go ahead, turn this assignment in so Teams isn't bugging you about late work. But other than that, you guys are done with this assignment today. Again, notice no question marks, so nothing you needed to do there, but add the notes, set up your notebook, play the game, and listen to me talk about the notes. All right, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks.